Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with the main man, Sam, for your not Tuesday night, but Thursday night fans forum. We thought we'd take advantage of Aston Villa playing on Sunday night to maybe move the fans forum back a couple of days. Actually, it was more that my family were visiting, so I had to move it back a couple of days, but we've still got plenty to talk about. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, help us. We are 35 away from 6,000 subscribers. So if you've not subscribed yet, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and keep your comments flowing in. We've got a couple of things to talk about, but we want your questions in. So please do get your questions, get your comments in, and we will get as many of them read out on the show as possible. Sam, great to see you. Have you been on since the season started? Everyone rolls into one. I've been on holiday, but I'm just trying to think. Have you been on the show since we had our first two games of the season?
Everyone rolls into one. You sure know how to make me feel special, Jesus.
Every day.
Not every show. All these sweet nothings into my ear over text, and then I get on and you just out me like that. I don't think I have. To be fair, I've been staying really positive in quote marks in my house, and you know the old adage, if you have nothing nice to say, you don't say anything at all. I decided to follow that, but I can hold my tongue no longer, Rich. I have to talk about it.
Well, yes, you were actually at the game against Newcastle, weren't you? I remember, and obviously weren't at the game against Brentford, thankfully. I wasn't there either. Well, watched it on television. So let's get into it. There's 3 points I want to talk about that I've put on a bit of an agenda. So let's talk about it first of all. I guess results haven't gone certainly as well as we would have wanted. But tactically, what have you made of Aston Villa to start off this season?
Well, before we get into the depressing stuff, Rich, you said you just watched Brentford on the TV, which is a Saturday 3:00 kickoff. How'd you manage that?
I can't divulge my secrets.
Yeah. If there's any federales on the chat, just ignore what you're hearing. What do I think tactically? Yeah, we've been really good. I've really enjoyed watching us play the last couple of games of the season. Oh God, it's been woeful, hasn't it? It's been horrible. Such a tough watch. It's very defensive, very on the back foot, very cautious, seems sort of scared to play. We kind of set out in a really sort of reserved fashion, reserved formation. I don't love this Onana and Kamara in a double pivot against teams we should be attacking, and it's just kind of, it's been underwhelming. And I actually thought from the preseason that we looked decent at times. We looked like, a big goal threat, but none of the players who were playing preseason are playing in the team now, which is really good. It's been riddled with errors and, a lack of confidence and a lack of courage. And it's been a horrible first couple of games, and it kind of goes to what I've already said, that I hate having the transfer window in season. I think it just clouds the mentality, and people always, you get one game in and people are like, oh well, we need this, we need that, we need all of our business should be done really by the time the transfer window starts, and then the few weeks afterwards really should just be for if there's a surprise injury or if there's something we should be where we want to be when the season starts. But obviously Villa's story this transfer window is something really, really different from what we've been used to. we have been selling players for a couple of years, but we've always, kind of come back and reinvested some of that money into sort of younger, exciting talent, and not that they ever play.
This is part of the other thing, isn't
buy
it?
it right back every 6 months so that they can just sit on the bench and watch Matty Cash just, I don't get me started on Matty Cash, but it's one of those things where at least we had the options and the squad depth, and now we just seem depleted, both in the squad, both mentally, physically. Don't look on it. Just it's. But other than that, it's going really well.
I was just about to say, apart from that, things are looking brilliant. No. But seriously, I agree with so much of that, and I was kind of comparing last preseason to this preseason, and it's always difficult, with regards to people say, you can win all your games in preseason and start the season off terribly. You can lose all your games in preseason and start the season off brilliantly. So, don't look anything into the results, which I wasn't really doing that. It was more to do with how we were playing and whether any of the deficiencies that we'd seen, and we've obviously pointed out multiple times on this podcast, had been solved, both in personnel and in sort of general play. And some of the things I was seeing that looked like there had been, we were trying to get in behind a little bit quicker. We were utilising Marlon a bit more in terms of those wide areas or off the shoulder. And it seemed like we weren't too fussed as much about playing it across the back. We're trying to be a little bit more direct, certainly in those last 2 or 3 preseason games. And I thought, that's actually looking quite good. We've got players that we can utilise. We signed Gesson, which again was going to add to that sort of tactical plan. Well, so we thought, but then we seem to have, like you said, just gone back into our shell in the first 2 games of the season, gone back to this narrow formation, gone back to John McGinn out on the right-hand side, which we know doesn't work because he didn't have the pace in the first place, and he's obviously dropped a little yard of pace or half a yard of pace anyway. We don't seem to have the competition at the back that we really need. We're operating with Luca Dean at left back, who, don't get me wrong, is an excellent footballer. But if you've got a lack of pace in the team as a general rule, why not play Ian Matson, who's going to give you that pace? It just seems like we've made decisions that seem to have counteracted everything that we thought we were going to be working on and we thought had been worked on in pre-season, that has just gone backwards, and it just seems strange. And then you factor in the transfer window and whether some certain players are playing within themselves because they might be uncertain about certain plans in the next few days. I don't know, but you factor in that, and it's led to this kind of malaise almost.
Yeah, it's hard to explain because people talk about, like, the talking points that I've seen of people saying, Unai Emery is doing what Unai Emery does. But when Unai Emery first came in, he played this really attacking, high press, high defensive line, playing out really, beautiful football, sometimes trying to be a bit too beautiful with it. This doesn't look like Unai Emery football to me. We can't pass the ball 4 yards. It's not that we're not winning games. And obviously, we lost the one. We lost against Brentford, and we drew.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not the results that are bothering me. We're only 2 games into the season. It's just the way we're playing. That Newcastle game is just, oh my god, it was such a drab game. Just offered nothing. We had no shots on target until the 70th minute. We don't look like scoring, and even if we do score, it doesn't look like a sustainable. We don't have a plan. Do you know what I mean? I can't sit here and tell you what Villa's attacking plan is, because from almost every corner that we're taking, the ball's going back to the goalkeeper. We're playing so slowly, and this seems to be the common theme. This is what everyone's complaining about, just so slow getting forward. And you're right, there's no pace on the wings, but even if there's not, play the ball through the middle, let Morgan Rogers turn, spread the play if you need to. Luca Dean, honestly, you say what you want about him from a pace perspective, but he's always open.
Yeah.
He never gets the ball. we got players in the team who I'm certain are sabotaging, by the way. So like they must be on the payroll for someone else, because Pau Torres and Matt Cash just
Oh, mate.
he
Both.
died on Pau Torres. Like that man, when he first came in, I was in love. I thought, oh, he's got it all. He's not the best defensively. We knew that, and I've always said he might work better as a CDM than he does a centre back. But his one saving grace is that he passes the ball beautifully. And now he can't even do that. He's too slow. He's too weak. He's a liability. And it's just like, surely we're all seeing this with our untrained fan, armchair fan eyes. And we're like, this clearly isn't working. The same issues are happening over and over again. And you just think, I know that Emery is restricted in the transfer market. And I know on the first day of the season, he played Mings in concert, when he had everyone fit. But surely you must look at that and say, well, we've got to do something about this. We need a new centre-back. We need a new right-back. And we need some pace in the team. Like, surely he's watching it on the sidelines and going, this is boring. This is so slow. We're just passing the ball backwards and so. It's not like we are doing that and drawing them out and opening up they're just sat back every single time. Newcastle did it, Brentford did it, and people have kind of sussed us out. They're just like, let them have the ball. Let Villa have the ball. It doesn't matter if 10 of their players, bar the goalkeeper, are in our half. They're just going to pass it sideways and sideways to run out of ideas, and they'll just lump it or lose it. And what teams are doing against us now, and it's how Newcastle won that red card from us, and it's how Brentford scored 2 goals from us, whether the goal counted or not. But it's just hit them quickly, hit Villa on the break, because they're slow. They're a slow team. You've spoken loads, since I've been on the pod for the last 4 years, whatever, about getting big 6'5", thunder bastards in the middle who are just gonna, throw everyone around like a rag doll. But that's all well and good. But if everyone's 6'5" or 6 foot plus and they're slow as balls, it's like, well, someone needs to track back, or you can't play that high.
No.
Yeah.
We've got a 6'5" central midfielder who plays like he's 5'3", unfortunately.
Just Onana. I did see that. I did see you. I think the criticism against Onana is actually, it's fair, but it's also a little bit harsh. I really like what Onana does. I don't think the system works. Not just for him, but for anyone. No one seems to be thriving in this system. He looked horrible this season.
Yeah. And I think part of it is the rigidity. Sorry, I'll play that again, put my teeth in that central midfield area. Like you said it yourself, you want to see Morgan Rogers get the ball on the half turn. You don't want to see him receiving the ball under intense pressure. I'm really sorry. I will get to the comments in a second. I know there's loads coming in, but you see you want Morgan Rogers not necessarily receiving the ball really under pressure with one player right behind him and another player coming in from the side to try and tackle him. Because as we know, his first touch isn't always the best. His kind of, sometimes his one touch passing isn't always the best. Sometimes decision making isn't always the best. But if he picks the ball up on the half turn, as he's dropped off from his man in some space, and then he's got the time to run at someone and get some ahead of steam up, he's unstoppable. Like, you can't stop him. And then you factor in, say, Kamara receiving the ball or Onana receiving the ball with a little bit of space, then what they can do. But there's no rotation in that midfield four. It's like there's 2 and then there's 2, and that's it. It's like you've got Onana and Kamara who have to get the ball off. As it started on Saturday, had to get the ball off the centre backs or had to receive the ball deep. And then you had Tielemans and Rogers who had to receive the ball in those kind of 2 number 10 positions. There was no there was no point where Onana went forward so that Rogers could come into his space, or on the other side there was no diagonal running, so like someone picked the ball up and they switched diagonally. There was none of that. And I don't understand it. Like, for me, that's coaching 101. Like, if you want to create space in midfield, someone empties a space to then allow someone to come into that space to fill it. Like, I don't understand why we would just stay as like a rigid box formation. That doesn't make any sense to me, because that completely makes you easy to defend against.
Yeah, it is. It does look really easy to defend against us at the moment. Like I say, that the plan is sit back and let Villa have the ball because they don't have the creativity. They don't, if we overload at the back, they don't have anywhere to go. I mean, Ollie Watkins is one of those. He kind of thrives on running through and square balls and, like pouncing in the box. Like we spoke about this before, and I'm purposely not digging into Ollie Watkins because, he's obviously not been great, but I actually don't think it's his fault this time. Like he has nothing to work with, but he's not the player. And, I know a lot of people are just going to see this as me having a go at Ollie Watkins, and that's fine. But he's not the player who's just going to like grab a game by the scruff of its neck and just win you the game. He's a player who needs the players behind him to be performing, and he needs space, and he needs the game to be going his way. Like he's not John Duran, who's just going to do, something silly and just kind of barge his way through all the defenders and, pick the team up and do something crazy. He's clinical when the players behind him feeding him. He needs chances and multiple chances as well. And he will get you the goal. But he can't do it in the way that
No, absolutely.
That's why I don't think he's even had, a shot worth mentioning. I know it's only been 2 games, but he's not. He's had 1 shot on target in 2 games, and he's had about that many touches of the ball as well. Which
is again, like you said before, lots of people saying this is Emery's way and this is how Emery's done it, but it certainly wasn't Emery's way when he first came in. It certainly wasn't Emery's way at huge chunks of the season when we finished 4th. And, at certain parts of the season last season, it wasn't his way. So I'm just a bit puzzled. And like, I don't know whether it will be, just getting a result over the line, getting this transfer window out of the way, whether that's something that will kind of just set us back and settle us down or, get that confidence back. I'm not too sure, but certainly something needs to happen.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, it's hard because it's only 2 games into the season. But
yes,
we're not talking about trends from the first 2 games of the season. We're talking about trends from last season as well, pre-January, pre-Rashford and Asensio signing and, sort of lifting the mood and the spirit in the club. There were times before January when we were not doing well and, we were playing like this. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I think it has to be a personnel issue, Rich. It has to be a personnel where there are just certain players in the team who cannot function at the level that they need to function at. And, I know that you hate talking about this, but we talk about, needing some creativity, someone who's just going to excite people who are going to make the other team scared, make defenders half step and, and Jack Grealish would have been a really, really good solution to that problem. Like, you can't turn your nose up at Jack Grealish.
Someone in the comments said about Grealish. I can't remember.
Yeah, probably. I think it was.
Oh, Lewis should have signed Super Jack Grealish. Yeah. There he is. I think there's a couple of people that have said it. And do you know what? You see him playing in that, amazing stadium that Everton have made in that first game, and you see him setting up the 2 goals. The first one was just classic Grealish that we haven't seen for 4 years at Everton, and then he just does it straight away. 4 years at Man City, and straight away he does it at Everton.
He looks like he's cutting inside, and then he puts it on his left, and then
he's like, oh, you were like that kid who on that meme who says, Dad's crying, just want Jack back or something like it was just like that was just such a throwback, and you think, do you know what? It would have been amazing to actually get him back in, and he would have given us a real spark.
Well, here's the question then, Rich. I'll flip it over. How do we process the start of the season and what seems to be happening at Villa, and forget everything on the pitch, everything off the pitch is going as badly. The players that we're losing, like Jacob Ramsey, he's one of those. Jacob Ramsey's one that like maybe like 50% or a little bit higher would have said that they'd be happy to sell for for the fee that we got for him. That not necessarily really sad about seeing him go, but the problem is we're getting rid of players like Jacob Ramsey and then not reinvesting it, not replacing him. You know, we've got people on our books, or getting people off our books who admittedly don't play very well. They talk about Emery Buendia leaving. Like, they're just every single person that we have been linked to so far, whether that's Jackson or Garnacho or Nkuku or, you know, all these other plethora of players who we're supposed to be taking a look at have all gone elsewhere. Like, with things going so badly off the pitch and on the pitch as well, how do you, as a Villa fan, how are you supposed to like process this and without just being completely inorganic and just saying, oh, stiff upper lip, you know, trust in Unai, trust in this. But how are you supposed to process that without being super negative? Because I feel like I've not seen anything good about Villa for since the season started and even before when we were talking about transfers and stuff. How do you process this and be objective and like what's the silver lining? What's the good here? What should we really be looking at?
Well, I mean, it depends on. I mean, like I said before, right? And there's people here, Sarko. I am fully aware of the UEFA sanctions. I'm not stupid, right? And I understand that. We just said that Jack Grealish coming would have been great. I fully understand the cost of the loan deal and all that. We ain't stupid. But in terms of players, in terms of what's the silver lining? And I kind of said this in pre-season. I said, like, you know, when you look at the midfield and the quality of player in that midfield, it's still a hell of a good, it's still number of good players, right? You're talking Onana, Kamara, Tielemans, Rodgers. It's still a fantastic set of players, right? So with a couple of tweaks, a couple of tactical tweaks, I think we can get back to some exciting football. It just depends on what you view the level of where we're going to finish as, because, you know, this time I put out a tweet at the end of last season. I said, if we don't sign anyone and subject to us not getting, obviously confirming Asensio, Rashford and Disasi, where would we finish? And lots of people said, you know, we'd still finish 6th or 7th. I don't know if that's true anymore.
I don't think it is. So you were saying basically temper your expectations. So like,
yeah, I think that's kind of what we've got to do. And then that leads to the next question is which I put a tweet out. Will Unai Emery be happy with tempering his own expectations about where he wants to be and how he wants a football club to be? Because, you know, he's a world-class manager. World-class clubs will want him and will offer him far more than what we can offer him beyond the limitations that we have. So will he have the patience to stay on? So that then becomes a different argument. But yeah, we'd have to. I do think there would have to be some tempering of expectation. You look at what the other clubs have been able to do in terms of signings. You then look at what, you know, the likes of Everton are doing, the likes of Nottingham Forest can do, Crystal Palace even can do. You know, we seem to have been punished for the kind of strides that we've made, but in turn that can lead to issues because other teams will continue to grow. So I think that in turn leads to problems. Yeah,
I think where Emery's concerned, like, firstly, all of the comments, not just on here tonight, but like on social media and everything else, where people are talking about Emery being under pressure and losing the dressing room, but shut up, man. That's true. Yeah, just stop, because you're not helping anything, and a lot of people are just like rage baiting, whatever it's called, and it's funny, but it's like, for anyone who's saying it seriously, like with chest, then just behave yourself. But I think, you know, you talk about Unai Emery, and obviously he's been restricted. He's been restricted into in the transfer window. He's not really been able to bring in players that he wants to bring in. But I think there's an element of responsibility on him as well. We talk about all the tactical stuff and the way that we play, and, you know, someone's just mentioned that our team is the exact same against Brentford that it was against PSG bar Rashford, and there's another sort of observation going around about
Engine number 9 said that.
Yeah, but there's another observation about the players that Emery signs. He obviously doesn't use any of them. You look at our squad against Brentford, or our first team against Brentford, and who was it? Dean Smith signed 7 of them, and there's been the manager since Unai Emery. So it's Gerrard, and then there's Emery. Like he's not. And I'm not saying it's him, but we all know he has a lot of control over who comes into the club and who we're looking at. But it's like, I don't think he can absolve himself of the blame entirely, because he's had some money and he's been able to bring in, even if they're on loan, like players of really high quality, like the best players who have played for this club for, probably in my lifetime, some of the most high profile, Champions League winners, and Asensio and Rashford, who's now playing at Barcelona, and they're good players. Like, really, I don't know. I feel like he won't be happy with it, but I think if he were to leave, I think he would know deep down that there were things that he's could have done better, and things that are on him, and there are things that are not on him. And I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult because we shouldn't need to be making wholesale changes to the team as often as we are. Do you know what I mean? Like, we seem to be we bring in a player, he kind of looks half decent, and is, like Duran came in, made a massive mark and sold him straight away. Diaby came in for a season, looked good, sold him straight away. And just, like Ramsey in pre-season started looking good, started getting back to his back, sold him. Like, I think it's difficult that we don't have that consistency with our better players. And all we're kind of left with is the players who are, you always say this, the runners, right? The ones who give their all and like, sweating through the nose after 2 minutes and breathing like asthmatics when they around the pitch. And it's just like, that's all well and good, but where's the quality? Do you know what I mean? Like, John McGinn on the right is not the quality. He's a brilliant player, but that's not where he plays. Like Morgan Rogers on the left, he's a brilliant player, but that's not where he plays. Matty on the right, he's not a brilliant player, and he shouldn't be playing a right back for any team. But let's say that that's what it is. Like, he's, Matty Cash needs to be upgraded. Mings, seemed injured early on. He's only played 2 games this season. He seemed to be struggling at Brentford. Obviously, he's been hampered by injury. Luca Dean, 33 years old. Kamara and Onana are both together in the middle. Do we really need 2 CDMs? Tielemans playing out of position. He's an 8. He's playing in the 10 now. It's just, seeing so many players are out of position, and so many players we need a quality upgrade there. And the best players that we've got have all had their heads turned. Emi Martinez, a lot of talk about him going in the summer. Morgan Rogers won the PFA Player of the Year, made us extremely proud, but he'll know that there's interest in him. He'll know that there are teams who are going to sort of not have the financial restrictions, that he's going to be able to play with better players. And, and Morgan Rogers is a player, and I love him. I love the bones of him, and no one can accuse me of anything otherwise. And this is true. But he's been dire in these first couple of games, and he was crap at the end of last season as well. It's exactly like you say, he gets the ball on the half turn when he can receive it in the middle. He'll take on 1 or 2 players, but instead of playing that pass or, progressing that attack forward like he used to do, he just holds on to it too long, and then, loses the ball and then starts crying for a foul, and it's just not. It's not. It's one of those things where I just think, I don't know how much of this is Emery to just say, look, stop trying to shoehorn players into the team. Just play the players in their organic positions and do the best that you can with that.
Yeah, I think there's multiple things, and I do think there's obviously there's people who are trusting our Unai brigade, and you can't say a bad word against him and all that sort of stuff. But I think there is legitimate criticisms to be made. I said it myself on I did the podcast by myself the other day, and then obviously got that clipped up short. And then I said, you look at that team. John McGinn was a Steve Bruce signing, multiple Dean Smith signings, Steven Gerrard signing still playing. And there's Kamara and Digne, and there's only what 2 or 3, maybe 3.
Who is it? Pau Torres.
Signings. Pau Torres, Morgan Rogers, Yuri Tielemans.
Emmy was Dean Smith, right?
Yeah.
Emmy was Yuri Tielemans. Yeah, I mean, Yuri Tielemans is really the only one in that who is it? Tielemans.
Onana was in
Onana
the starting team. So Onana, Tielemans, Rodgers. Was that it?
and Pau Torres.
And Pat, Pau started, didn't he? Yeah.
So there's four players that he signed in the last nearly 3 years now.
Well, Pau didn't start the first game, did he?
Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't be starting any game, really.
So you could argue that if Conte hadn't been sent off, he wouldn't have started. So and yes, he's coached and he's got a system out, and he's made those players that were signed by Dean Smith and made those players that were signed by Steven Gerrard and Steve Bruce better, of course. Yeah. But there's like I said before, there comes a time when those players will reach their peak. And that peak, you could argue, was Champions League qualification and then going into last season. You could argue that was their peak. And at that point, you have to then think about succession planning. So either you bring players in that will get an extra 5 or 10% out of the current players, or will succeed them, and then you end up carrying on and getting better, much like Maatsen or hopefully Marlon. But you have to give those players an opportunity to play. Like, he's not giving some of them an opportunity to play. So that's where you have to say some of the criticism comes in. And that's got nothing to do with squad cost rules, PSR, FFP. That's by the wayside there. And then also there's criticism of the players who, look, you can forget all that business. It's about running around, working hard, winning tackles, passing to one of your teammates instead of the opposition. That's got nothing to do with PSR and FFP either. So, Villa fans, we have to stop making this excuse. Oh, we can't sign this player because of PSR. Like, there's basic parts of football that have nothing to do with any acronyms. It's to do with working hard and passing to the right player. And start having those expectations on your own team to actually put a performance in, instead of whinging and making excuses for them and saying, oh, well, if we could have signed this player and signed that player, but because of SCR, we can't do it. No, there's good enough players there to beat Newcastle. There's good enough players to beat Brentford. Get on and do it.
Yeah, I think especially because Brentford, they lost Mbeumo, Wissa's on strike. Like they've lost their main attacking outlet. And the problem isn't that we lost the game, because it can have a game of football and a single solitary game of football is what it is. Look at Grimsby and Man United yesterday. Like, anyone can win a football game.
Yeah.
But it's the way you set up. It's the way you go out. It's a mentality that you had from the start. We started against Brentford so defensively minded. We didn't start playing until the second half. And we did that so often last season. We'd go down. We'd go a goal down, and then we start playing. And it's like, I remember saying this so many times last year, why didn't we do that from the start? Why do you need to be, in adversity before you start really not everything has to be a Hollywood movie. You don't always have to make a dramatic comeback and, just win the game. Like, go in and just, if things aren't going right, you go a goal down or whatever, you need to change your tactics. But the starting premise should be, hey, look, we've got the better team here. We were Champions League quarterfinalists. We were FA Cup semi-finalists last year. We finished, on goal difference out of the Champions League. And I think this might be dramatic from me, but I feel like that game against Man United just killed us mentally. Like, you look at them yesterday, getting well beaten as well by Grimsby. And you just think of how much they battered us on that last day. It wasn't even close. And people talk about that Morgan Rogers goal that never was. They battered us. They could have been 50 up in the first half. And you look at those kind of games and you just think, I don't think it's although I agree with you, some players may have hit their ceilings, and people will say, oh, it's the same squad that was 2 years ago. Yeah, well, players age in 2 years. They haven't stood still in time. People get tired, people lose their this and that. And, not everyone stays the same for their whole career. But it's weird to think that, we had that opportunity and we have the players that we have, and it's just not. We can't make it click sometimes in those bigger moments, and I think PSR does, and all the acronyms, I think they do play a part. They play a part in refreshing the squad and changing the mentality. Maybe not about the personnel, but this is all mind games, Rich. It's all mind games. But I agree that the other side of it is just players just look off. They look mentally dejected from the off. They don't seem, I don't know, they don't seem up for a fight. They're just happy to be there and want to, if this was a boxing fight, they'd have started like this and just gone into the corner and absorbed the shots and try and get a quick little counter or something. So it's the wrong mentality. Take the center of the ring, and it's the same with football. You take the center of the ring, you navigate your opponent where you want them to be, and you show assert dominance immediately, and you start a game well, and the other team are like, oh crap, these guys are on it today, they want it. And this is exactly how I felt about Brentford when they started the game. I was like, wow, these guys are on it. And that with no Embremo, no Wissa, no massive signings, they were just like, we want to win this game today, and we just haven't felt like that.
Yeah, I've got to get into some comments. Really sorry we haven't jumped in earlier. I've tried to get some on there, and we've commented on those comments because so many of them are linked to what we're talking about. But Kevin said, I trust Emery to turn it around. However, Villa Day said, I think everyone is looking at our squad after these first two games and wondering what happened. I do think there's a part of that as well. Michael said, no excuses. Kevin said, it's on Emery, and I'm a fan of him, to be honest. Johnny says, it's so far, but on Sunday, I think the game is, but we'll be okay. Gary says PSR is an excuse now. And Gary also said, it's nice having Europe every year, but it's not nice knowing we won't win anything. I've got a question on that in a minute. Stephen says, Marlon not playing is crazy. Kevin says, back four, no Dini or Torres against Crystal Palace, please. And you would think they would trust his own signings, says Stephen Van Leer, which leads to the question of, are they actually his signings? That might be another question to ask. So yeah, I mean, loads of comments coming in around the players and not using them, and a bit talking about sort of money and commercial revenue and stuff like that. But moving on to that with the money and the commercial stuff, and I guess leading into transfers. What do you think regarding like transfers? Do you think we're going to make any? How do you assess it? Like, if people talk about Asensio and people saying it's done.
Who's saying it's done? I don't want to out a certain fellow Villa content creator here, but
I'm not going to name names. But people saying it's done, and then like you just said before, certain players that we're linked with, and I know we do the transfer talk shows. It's more just to kind of assess the players and see how they might fit into Villa. But, certain players getting linked to Villa specifically, and then they seem to sign for someone else. We're trying to maneuver certain things with players out or wages or structuring of deals. We've sold Ramsey. How do you see us being able to get someone in? Because it's clear that we need pace. It's clear that we need cover at centre back, and it's clear that we need a right back. What are we doing?
So we need pace on the wing. We need a centre back and a right back, and
we need a striker as well.
And we're signing Asensio. That is good. That is really good tactics. Look, I'm not for this Asensio signing, even if it happens. And by the way, if it does happen, then the ITKs who have been calling it have gotten lucky. No one knows anything. Stop lying for views, Justin. I don't. Firstly, I don't think you'll see a lot of players coming in to the. A lot of players coming through the door before the transfer window ends. Sorry, I just don't see it happening. Unai Emery last week said, if we want to sign players, despite everyone that we've sold, we need to get more players out the door. That's what all of the journalists are saying. Villa need to sell. We've got a 21-man squad at the moment. What are we going to do? We're going to end up with like 11 players in on the whole bench. We had 3 keepers in the matchday squad against Brentford,
and 3 other youth team players on the bench.
3
as well.
Youth team players. Look, we clearly desperately need to bolster the squad, but we need players who are going to come in and challenge for the first team. And I don't like shelling 30 million on Gisand and then him not getting a look in. Like, what's the point? Firstly, he's a number 9, but he said, "All right, don't worry, I'll play on the wing. I'll play on the wing because I want to play." And this is a player who's played in Europe consecutively for the last 2 or 3 seasons. He's no one's mug. He's an experienced player. He gets 5 minutes off the bench. He skins one guy, and we all lose our minds immediately and say he's the answer. He's the truth. The players, even Marlon, 140 grand a week he's on, and he's playing on the bench. He's just, he's handing out the oranges at half time. He's not, I'll do that for 100 grand a week, 140 grand a week, no problem at all. Give me the oranges. I think the problem is, even if we do manage to sign the players, I don't think they're going to be the right players. I don't think they're going to cover the positions that we need. And secondly, I don't see any players coming in and taking spots in the first team, because the other criticism that I have of Unai Emery, and I have very few actually, I've just aired them all today, is I love Unai. I'm with him until we get relegated, and even then, he can still.
You get a chance to bring us back up.
Yeah, Unai Emery all the way. I'm not turning on him, not even close. But he does have his favourites, doesn't he? But I mean, if Rodgers took a shit on the pitch, he wouldn't take him off. He'd be like, you know what, that was a smart move. He just loves the bones of him. Same with Pau Torres as well. Pau Torres, if you're going to sell someone for some money in this summer, you get rid of Pau Torres because he's worth a little bit. Like teams in Spain and across Europe would be interested in him, and he's CAC. So, but he likes who he likes, and he likes consistency. He likes playing the same team when he can. And he likes holding on to that team. He makes subs very late in the games. But even when we're losing, we need to change of pace. He'll wait until the 70th, 75th, 80th minute, like he did against Newcastle, before making changes. And it's like, it's one of those where I don't think we have the capacity to make the signings that everyone is saying is going to happen. But even if we do, even if we get Asensio in, what issue is he resolving? What is he the solution to? We've got 2 players who can play in the number 10 in Tielemans and Rodgers. Doesn't fancy it.
And even McGinn more central is more effective than he is out on the right.
Did you see Unai Emery's response? Someone asked him about McGinn playing on the wing, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he played on the wing 2 seasons ago. He was really good." No, he wasn't.
He was terrible.
Get him off the wing.
Yeah.
Stop playing him on the wing.
He was terrible, and he's probably lost half a yard of pace.
He's lost half a yard of pace, and you know what he's going to do as well.
Yeah, I didn't like Emery's sort of, and I don't even know if this is lost in translation, but he kind of just said, "Oh yeah, we didn't want to be losing at half time, then we wanted to try and win the game in the second half." That just
we give ourselves 30 minutes to win the game. And it's just like, I've heard Paqueta, I've heard Asensio. So we're just going to have 15 cams. Is that what we're going to do? Why Paqueta? Why centre mid? Like, it's the last place we need. Like you said earlier, that's where all of our talent is in the middle. You've got McGinn who can play there, Tielemans, Onana, Kamara, Rodgers. Why sign another cam or a centre mid? It doesn't make any sense. Buy a winger. Go buy a winger. Like, do something. I can't get frustrated, but like the players that we've been linked to are not the players that we need. So even if we get them in.
I agree. I think Asensio would give us a bit more of that ruthlessness and sort of quality in the final third. But yeah, I totally agree. And I actually think the game is moving on. I think the game is changing. Like, you're seeing now that sort of Pep sort of style of continuously playing the ball across the back is going. Like, teams are being more direct. Teams are, long throws, balls into the box, winning like second balls high up the pitch. Yeah. Pacing behind. I keep saying the big man, little man combination up front is going to come back, because you're going to see the sort of counter to the possession-based football that was just, slow build play across the back, because teams have set up now to say, like, well, we're just going to flood players forward, and we're just going to put so much pressure on that. So then the obvious thing is to go long, more longer, quicker, because then you've got less players that you have to do that are in defence.
Can I agree and disagree with you at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
it's not, football isn't that one-dimensional. Yeah, okay, you need to be able to change your game depending on what circumstances. Sometimes you need to be able to play the ball across the back and break teams down, and
of course,
sometimes you need to be able to go long. And sometimes it's not about. And this is most people's complaint with Unai Emery is the perceived lack of no plan B. Like, you need to be able to play in different ways, and the best teams do. Like, if you look at PSG last season, sometimes they were just amazing in possession, and they did that well against Inter Milan. Like, Inter Milan sat back like most Italian teams do, although their defending was shocking. And PSG retained the ball against us. They hit us on the counter, and they assess game by game, and they change in game as well. They react to how the other team is playing, and find the way that's most suitable. It's not. I don't believe in this. Play it around the back because it works. It works sometimes in some scenarios, and the reason that Pep ball is dying is because people have been playing against it now in the Premier League for the last 10 years or however long you've been here. And they know better how to help. Doesn't just because you know what it is doesn't help you defend against it. But practice makes perfect, and people have played against. And even Man City now are having to change the way that they play and inject more pace. And players are playing in a certain way that isn't what you would traditionally call the Pep style of football. So you need to be able to have variation in your game, and that is something that we definitely don't have. And I don't. And the thing that bothers me about it as well is it's clearly so ineffective. Like, it's not like, we played really well. We had 80% of the ball against Brentford in the second half, and it was just one of those days where it wouldn't go in. It wouldn't go in because we didn't have any shots. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look threatening. We just have the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Comments coming in, flying in, flooding in. David said McGinn should have been sold. They really too much.
I think rely
on Watkins. Prez says, I would only invest in defence. A solid foundation will help us not to concede silly goals. Our issue has been conceding more goals than the top 10, 11 clubs. Certainly last season, but we've only conceded one goal in the first two games. We just haven't had any shots to score any. I think
that's an interesting point. Like, does I don't know who that was, but do they think that we look particularly threatening going forward?
Yeah. Apart from the shot that Brentford, the goal, I don't recall them having too many other chances. It was just that we were just so pedestrian going forward, didn't they? Yeah, and they didn't have to. Yeah, exactly. Kev said 3 players incoming. ... We'll see. We will see. And
wait, he's caveated. He's given the disclaimer. He goes, I could be wrong, but keep an eye out. Cheers, Kevin. He's really confident.
That's typical journalist speak. McGinn's being asked to do the wrong role. I'd love
3 players right back, but it might be 2, and it could be none. I don't really know anything.
I don't know about McGinn as a right back. He's left-footed, and Duncan said Emery looks like he's panicking here, and there's no need for it. James says, shame if some Villa journalists don't ask the hard questions. Maybe they will start to. Villa Dave said, we're waiting to sign players who have nowhere to go and their clubs don't want them. Great. Michael says, we all love him, but we're all confused with what he's doing at the moment. Guys, we have nearly 300 of you in the chat. This is, again, what Fans Forum is for. Obviously, we put our points out, we'll go to comments, and we just talk about what is on the mind. And yes, maybe slightly sort of negative, but I have to say that's where we are at the minute. We want Villa players to be playing well. We want the situation to be rosy, but it's we're concerned. We want to see us moving forward. We want to see us playing well. Hopefully that turns around on Sunday. But great to have you all commenting and joining in the chat. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help us spread the word of the channel. Like I said before, just over 30 away from big 6,000 subscribers. Thank you all for your support, but please, we want to continue growing. Next stop, 10,000. So please do help us continue to grow. Look at the goals against last 2 seasons, and then you'll understand my point. Yeah, I totally get you. And there might be a case of Unai Emery wanting to, knowing that he hasn't got a great deal of cover, particularly in defensive positions, to to maybe being way more conservative. But the problem is if you go too conservative in terms of your playing, you don't have any threat going forward. And then all a team needs to do, much like Brentford, is score a goal on the break or score a goal from a set piece, shut up shop, and you're not going to be able to break them down. And that's the risk. You have to carry a threat. You have to play with some form of risk. And it doesn't seem like that balance is there at the moment with Aston Villa. Someone asked a question. I did star it. I think it might have been engine number 9. Let me just see if I can find the question.
Whilst Richard's doing that, ladies and gentlemen, I have a new socials handle.
Oh, yes. Follow Sam at Samwise_UTV. Please do.
Not that I don't love all 4 of my current followers, but it would be nice to be able to share. This is a completely Villa related. Don't worry, you're not going to see pictures of my kids or anything like that. Completely Villa related channel on Instagram and on X or Twitter, wherever the hell it's called now. So just give me a follow because I feel lonely. Thank you.
Get onto it. Get onto it, everyone. There's 265 of you in here. If we can get him up to 269 followers. Yeah. Engine number 9 says, do you reckon we will be putting all our eggs in winning Europa Cup after Christmas? What do you think about that? You know, taking the Spurs route and putting all your eggs in one basket, finishing 7th but winning the Europa League.
I don't think Spurs did that intentionally, if I'm being honest. I think they got very lucky with their draw and how it went. I personally, this is the Martin O'Neill paradox, isn't it? I remember that game against CSKA Moscow. I was there. I remember him fielding the kids and putting all of his eggs into winning that competition. All of his eggs into the basket of qualifying for the Champions League through the Premier League and playing all the kids in the UEFA Cup. And, you know, like it either works for you like it did for Spurs last year or it doesn't. Me personally, I've said I'm happy to have an average league performance and crash out the domestic cups and if we win the Europa League, because it's a route back into the Champions League. And the reason I say that and not the domestic cups is not because I don't care about the FA Cup. I don't care about the Carabao Cup, but the FA Cup is a route back to the Europa League, whereas winning the Europa League is a route to the Champions League. And that's what we need. We need a trophy and another way to get into the Champions League. So, of course, look, we shouldn't give up on the league. I don't even know what giving up on the league means. Does it mean that we just don't try? Or, you know, like you need that. I'll clearly show
the momentum.
Well, Spurs showed that you don't need the momentum. But I was going to say, that seems to be the anomaly, right? Like people don't normally win European trophies and finish 17th in their league. But I think we've got the quality in the team to have a real push in the Europa League. Well, there are some good teams in that competition, but the benefit that we have is no one's dropping down. We're not getting the people who aren't performing in the Champions League, like some of the bigger name players who normally end up going to win what was the old Europa League before this format change. So it's for me personally, if we finish 17th and won the Europa League, I'd be ecstatic. I don't think Emery would be happy with it, and I don't think it's a sustainable model. But look at what Spurs have done. I know that Spurs have got massive revenue and they're not restrained, funds-wise like us. They have the lowest wage to revenue percentage in the league at 40% or something like that, but they've gone out and they've really tried to make an impact with their signings. They've said, look, we weren't happy with being in 17th in the league. We're going to go out and try and sign big players like Morgan Gibbs-White, and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then they went out and got a top manager in Thomas Frank. Like, they have used that platform of being in the Champions League as well as I've seen it used. And it's something that we probably could have done better last year. When we were in the Champions League, we could have gone and made those big signings. But again, we had financial restraints that we weren't allowed to do that. So I think it's one of those things where the Europa League, winning it and getting back into the Champions League, would sort us out financially. It would sort out this mentality block of us not having won a trophy since 1996 or wherever it was we won the League Cup. We need to win something. And we see teams around us like Palace doing it and Spurs doing it and Newcastle doing it. Teams who have either never won a cup or have not won one for 60, 70 plus years. And the proof is in the pudding that you don't have to be Man City to go and win something. if you perform well and you take your chances, and our big problem is those clutch moments, those big games, like the game against Man United at the end of last season, that game against Crystal Palace, that game against PSG. Like, we just always seem to not have the mentality and fall short. And I know we played well in the second leg against PSG, but against Palace and against Man United, those were our two worst performances of the season.
Horrible.
But it was the occasion. We weren't mentally there.
Yeah. Peter says we should not be focusing on just a cup. I agree. Spurs didn't choose what happened. Absolutely. And look, ultimately, it was successful for Spurs as a football club because they won the Europa League, but it cost Ange Postecoglou his job. So I'm pretty sure that Aston Villa fans would not be happy with finishing 17th with Unai Emery, because it's the journey to finish 17th. It's the number of games that you lose. It's the heartache that you go through losing every week. There's no way that social media would be like, oh yeah, let's just take on because we're going to win the Europa League. Like, yeah, man, X is bad enough as it is right now, and we've got 1 point out of the first two games. Imagine if we've lost 20 games across the season. Like, there'll
be cult-like rituals where people do bad things. I'm being deadly serious. We are. The thing is, though, we as a fan base have experienced adversity.
Yeah.
In heaps and bounds. Like the season we went down, the championship, and everything. I thrown a cabbage at the manager. Like, we've been in the doldrums. Like, let's not kid ourselves and pretend like we don't know how to lose. Like, we do. I think the problem is our expectations have gone so high.
Yeah.
From our recent success, and it has been successful. Like, we have progressed in an unimaginable trajectory. There's no Villa fan who, at this stage last season, when we were getting ready for our first Champions League game, and after that Bayern Munich win, and after that big performance against Celtic and getting through to the quarterfinals, and it's just like we were on cloud nine. The problem is we look like we've regressed our trajectory. We've hit a peak and now we're going the other way. It's like, it's fine to maintain that level, not, if there's a ceiling, but it's going back down. The worry is you're sliding down the hill, you don't know how far you're going to go. Yeah. And I think that's where the panic sets in, and that's where us as Villa fans tend to hop jump the gun, because we know that we're not infallible. We know that we're not beyond getting relegated. I'm not saying we are going to get relegated, but we know that we talk about our ceiling, we don't know what the floor is.
Yeah.
We know bad things can happen, and I think we don't want to lose this feeling that we had in the last year. Like last season was the best season of my life, bar none, despite not winning anything and missing those massive hurdles. Just the Champions League nights, the way that the club was being spoken about, the reverence that pundits and the rest of football, the way that they were talking about us, it felt good, and it was the first time in my lifetime that Villa felt as big as I had been told that Villa are my whole life. And that's the feeling you don't want to lose. And that's, by the way, for everyone else, that's the panic when people are like, oh, why are you panicking? It's for that reason.
You just don't want to be irrelevant, do you?
You don't want
to be an also-ran. Yeah.
Yeah, we love having progressed year on year in Conference League and Europa League and Champions League. And, we've been going up, and people are panicking because they don't want to go back to where we were.
You don't want to prove the pundits right. I'll be like, oh yeah, Villa have flashed in the pan for a couple of seasons, but they'll be back where they're, back in that position. Do
you remember that game against West Ham when Jack Grealish scored and we survived on the last day of the season? We were all on that game. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all relative, right? At that time, that was massive success, and now it's different.
Oh, absolutely. And in engine number 9 says, if we are 20 points off fourth, though, you'd obviously assess the priorities throughout the season, but I think if we're 20 points off fourth, we'd probably somewhere near the bottom of the league. So we'd be like, I don't know what priorities we'd be talking about then, but we'd have to see where we are.
Do you think there's any risk to Unai Emery's job at any point?
No, I don't think so. And I don't, like I said, I think the team is good enough to get over this little blip. And I think you summed it up perfectly well in terms of, it's more the certain aspects of our game play that we're not seeing improve. And then there's that risk. You don't want to be dropping, and that's the worry. You want to be back up and being talked about and being, the players that we've got showing what they can do and being at that level. So I don't think there's a risk of him being sacked. And I think he's a good enough manager, certainly, and coach to get us ultimately to get us results. I think by hook or by crook he'll get us results, and then maybe that confidence will start to come back. He's been in that position before where we've lost multiple games in a row, and then he's kind of has adapted a little bit to get us back on track and get a couple of results on the board, and then it's kind of snowballed. We've under Emery, we have been that team, haven't we, where we've gone on these runs, and then you kind of see it. So I do think
haven't lost a football game at Villa Park for a year.
Exactly. So Gary said needs to win the Europa for me. Who else have we got? Who's back in it? Francis, who's back in the win at last against Crystal Palace? Well, we're going to do a Crystal Palace preview coming up, but we'll tease it a little bit tonight in a second. Emery's Kingdom, Aston, 150 years, 1874, up the Aston Villa. I mean, that's everything all in one title there. I know it's very early days, 2 games in, but so many of us are concerned with what we're seeing. We've been spoiled under Unai Emery, but we are better than the performances we have produced so far. I think that's what you summed up there before, Sam, and you find that his name quite humorous.
It's not his name, actually. I really want some background on Flange.
I know. Yeah,
Villa James says. I was like, what did you say?
I know. Buendia out, Asensio in. We shall see about that. Sure. I know. Buendia might be looking at moving, and I would certainly drive him wherever he wants to go. Maybe he'll run there, and Villa fans will cheer him for running.
I think you're harsh against Buendia.
Maybe I am. Unai Emery got us to Champions League, some of the best nights under the lights of Villa Park, with plenty more to come. He will go down in folklore. I think my point was people love Buendia, right, after playing a couple of decent games in pre-season, but Leon Bailey got loads of stick and he's crap and that, and he scored multiple goals, set up multiple goals. I just don't get it. That's what I don't get. Like it just doesn't compute for me. And look, you can have 2 things could be right at the same time, right? Leon Bailey could be disappointing and not a great player, but he's, as I've said before, football fans seem to love players that run around, and you highlighted it. Love running around, but anyone who's considered a bit more of a luxury player, who doesn't maybe do the running, but will produce some moments of quality, it kind of then gets more criticism.
I think the energy, and I don't think it is just running around. I think that's it kind of simplifies what they like. John McGinn's another one who you accuse of just running around, and I think the energy and I think it's supposed to change the mood of the team. Like, you need workers in there to set the tone of like, this is how hard you should be working. And when Deere, he does actually offer like a threat. Like he took a pop shot against Brentford from like 30 yards. And I just remember thinking, thank God someone just had a go. And like, he's doing overhead kicks and just being silly and just, crazy things. And it's like, well, at least he's trying something. And it's like, I think trying something is better than not trying something. And I think in pre-season as well, I know it's pre-season and it doesn't mean anything. And we battered Roma and we did this and we battered these and battered that. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like there's a player in there who shouldn't be good enough for us. But I think the reality is that he is good enough for us right now because of an absence of alternatives. Maybe.
Yeah, and look, there's a will for someone to do well, isn't there? And sometimes the story makes the player. He's obviously he did look sharp in that one summer, and he and we thought that this is the season where Buendia will come to fruition, and got that really bad injury, and we kind of got the similar thing with Daniel Marlin. He's come in, he's kind of feeling a bit unjust in terms of not getting in the Champions League squad. And then, came in and scored a couple of goals and hasn't really been given a fair crack of the whip. And it's like, we got to give him a chance. There's a player there, isn't it? But that juxtaposes with trusting Unai Emery, trust the process, because Unai Emery's not playing him, so there's got to be something that he's not seeing that Daniel Marlin isn't producing. So, you can't have it both ways. So yeah. Anyway, I digress.
Expensive bench player. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, yeah. And we've got an expensive cheerleader as well in the team.
I'm not getting drawn into your little fishing. Yeah, expensive cheerleaders all around.
But yeah, let's just tease the Palace game. So I mean, obviously it was meant to be Friday. It was meant to be tomorrow if you're watching this live, and or tonight. It was meant to be if you're watching this on Friday, but it's moved to Sunday at 7 p.m. I mean, they've had the run over us, haven't they, in multiple games? And even when we have managed to get victories, it's been, off the back of an amazing goal by John Duran, which turned the game. And, even before other managers, I think when Roy Hodgson came in, they beat us 1-0 when under Steven Gerrard. We've always seemed to have really tough games against Crystal Palace. But is this a game where we can get a result and then, I guess, turn it around a bit on the season? Like, I feel like if we did manage a good result and a big performance, that would go some way of turning it around and getting that encouragement going into the international break.
My answer depends.
Yeah. It's going to be extremely difficult.
Are Sarr and Mateta playing? Because if they are, then probably not. They have the run over us. They batter us. Yeah, they'll play, man. They'll play. And I don't know. We've historically not. I know at Villa Park, I reckon against Palace isn't horrible, but just. I don't know. Palace seems to be an Achilles heel for us. We don't like the way they play. They've got a really, really good manager in Glasner as well, and he sets them off on the front foot. And watched some of the games this season, and they just, who was it? Who did they play? Was it last week? Was it? I can't remember who they played. Was it Liverpool? No, who was it? I don't know. But I remember
they played Chelsea.
That was it. Yeah.
And they drew, and then they've also drawn against Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I remember. Like they play good football and they have no fear. And I think the no fear thing it's that quality of Palace that I actually really like. And they're off the back of some massive highs, man. They won the FA Cup, they won the Community Shield. I know they lost Eze, but I don't think that really bothers them, like from a mentality perspective, because they lost Elise, who I would argue is a better player than Eze. And then the next season, they went on to achieve incredible things. And I think they're a really, really good team. And Palace, in my lifetime, historically, have not really been one to be afraid of. But I think we need to give them the respect that they deserve and say, look, it's not. A lot of people say, oh, we should be beating Palace. Well, okay, fine, yes, maybe we should, but it's not guaranteed. And it's one of those games where we're going to have to play the right way. We're going to have to, really have people on Mateta, because we really struggle with someone holding up the ball and then feeding a fast winger. We saw it with Alanga. We saw it last weekend with Brentford. We saw they have the personnel to hurt us in the places that we're weakest. So it's going to be a difficult game. If I'm being deadly honest, I don't really see us getting much out of it. Not to say that we can't. I don't know. I don't see it. But but even if we don't, it's not because we're just, a lump of shit. It's because they are actually a really good side.
Good team.
Well-drilled.
Good manager. Yeah, I mean, Ronan's put it in there. The worrying aspect for Sunday's Glasner has outthought Emery tactically on each of the last meetings. And that's the thing. And someone put in Emery is maybe overthinking things. And he certainly overthinks things when it comes to playing against Glasner, because he did in the away game at Palace, and that was disastrous. So we've got to do something. Duncan said if Emery picks an attacking team, then we'll win. And I was just about to say that, is it the time? Loads of people in the chat, Marlon and Gesand, you've got to pick both or at least one of them. Is it time to put one or both of those in the team?
Yeah. I mean, It can't be worse than what it's been, right? It's one of those things. It's like, do you mix it up on a game that you are expecting? You kind of expect to get something out of. But I would, because clearly what we've been doing is not working. Kassan looked nice for for the short amount of time he was on. He looked like he was unafraid, which is what I really liked. He was standing a man up. He's like, all right, go on then. Let's try and go past someone. And I think you need that. Marlon as well. You worry about Marlon's mentality because he's just been so overlooked, and that pressure for him to perform if he does come in, it's going to be like, well, here you go. Here's your 5 minutes. Make it count.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we gave you a start and then take him off at half time or something.
And what people don't really talk about is it's difficult for players to play well without consistent first team football. Do you know what I mean? Like I've played at a really, really relatively crappy level of football, but even I know when I wasn't playing a lot, even when I was training and playing reserve games and practice matches and stuff like that, that match sharpness leaves you, and you sometimes need a bit of a spell to get in the team. And I think if I'm Emery, I'm looking at Rodgers, who's not been effective, and his attitude hasn't looked right. Not just that he's not producing what he normally produces. I'm not talking about end result. I'm talking about his general.
Just demeanor, running after the ball,
and
tackles.
I'm not saying he's a bad kid or he's doing.
No.
It's just maybe he's just mind space is just best for him to sit one out. Do you know what I mean? And he's got a lot of attention, a lot of focus on him right now, and it might be one of those things where they just say, but maybe they don't want to piss him off. Maybe they want to keep him happy and be like, if they put him on the bench, he's going to be like, do you know who I am? I've got young player of the year. I'll have mate. I'm
Enzo Maresca. Is that
you?
Do
you know what I mean? Yeah, Enzo Maresca or anyone else. He'll just be tweeting for Fabrizio Romano. And but I'd like to see Rodgers just at least come off the bench, just have a little break from that starting lineup. Put Marlon on the right, give McGinn a minute. Obviously there's no Kamara now, so maybe Rodgers just does stay and play in the middle, and but you still put Kassan out on the left, and you just need to get some service into Ollie. Give him a chance to. I haven't even been able to shout Ollie Watkins yet because he's not had a chance to do anything wrong. So it's like
this is it. Give Villa players, give Sam the opportunity to slate Ollie Watkins.
Do you know what I mean?
What are you doing?
I've got withdrawal here.
That's what he's on the pod for.
I haven't called it. I'm loose. That's my USP. So the only reason people are interested moan about Ollie Watkins, and I can't because he's not even had a chance to do something wrong. And I think something will click and something will change. I don't expect it to be like this going forward. I do trust Emery to sort it out and get things right. I don't know what he's going to change. I think you talk about Kassan and Marlon, they can come in, but if that doesn't work, then what?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, like I say, we just need a win, and we don't want to be 2 games into the season, people. And like I say, I think we're just talking about the signs that are kind of concerning, and that sort of potential drop off. It's not Unai Emery. It's not it's not his quality as a manager. It's just wanting to see us produce what we know we can, and that's where we want to be. Just rounding off the show, and just to maybe put a bit of a positive, well, I don't know if it's positive or not, but I guess we've had the news of the ground developments. The stadium is going to be extended. The North Stand, the planning permission has been approved, which is great. The Witten Station is going to be improved as well as part of that. We've got the warehouse projects all set up to go as well. So I think the ground would be was it 52,000, something like that? I'll be put up to.
I had 50 plus, so maybe.
Yeah. Right. So if we're talking about, now we have to be part-time accountants and everything like that with the club. If we're talking about generating revenue and bringing everything and bringing the club into the future, if you like.
Have you done the maths?
No, I haven't, mate. I haven't. I'm not that advanced.
What's the average ticket price, would you say?
150 quid now? No.
Go on, let's do the maths live.
£75, is it something like that?
75 quid. So it's an extra what? We're 20 we're 42.5. Say it goes up to
Yeah.
50 times by 75.
7,500.
That's about £500,000 every week. How many week? There's 19
games
in the season, right?
Yeah.
19 in a season. That's an extra 10 mil a year. There you go, boys. That's your.
There we go.
That's the difference. So the North Stand is going to, and God knows how much it's going to cost us to build. So yeah, 10 mil a year. I don't
10
know
mil a year.
It will be nice for more Villa fans to be able to get into the stadium. I think I'm gonna call you out here a little bit, Rich, and I don't know if this was supposed to be public knowledge or not, but I remember when the Liverpool-Newcastle game was going on and Newcastle were making that incredible comeback. You made a comment, and I won't say it. I'll let you divulge as much of it. Look how
Newcastle's fans are way better than ours.
Oh, I wasn't going to say that, but you did say that. I was going to say you kind of called us out for the atmosphere and the way Villa Park is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with you. I think when things are going well, like that game against PSG,
incredible!
Some of the games, the best atmosphere, and I could see from my seat. We was there.
Yeah.
It was mint, but I think in terms of dragging the team back, and I found it really hard. I was at the Newcastle game, and I think some of the boys in the group chat were saying, "Oh, it sounds really quiet on TV," and I was like, "Mate, there's literally nothing to sing about. Like we've only got 4 songs, and we're doing the same thing. Nothing's happening on the pitch." Do you think that the added people in the stadium, and it's brilliant that more people will be able to go to the games because the season ticket waiting list is 50, 60, 70,000 long. Do you think this is going to help the atmosphere, or do you think it's going to not improve it much?
I think in everything that I think there's ultimately people have talked about mindset and you know, I think there probably just needs to be a bit of a mindset shift with the fans as well. Like, you know, and yes, the players can help that, of course, when we talk about, you know, not performing in the big moments or the big games. When we kind of have something to fall back on, and yes, I know people have talked about, yes, we beat PSG and we have performed in big games, Man City at home, but I guess they were when we were the underdog and there was nothing expected of us, so we came into that game we've got nothing to lose, let's make the atmosphere big because it's easy to do it then, but it's more about like you said, when we have to pull ourselves round or we have to create an atmosphere because the game's a bit flat or Villa are losing or something like that. That's what I want the mindset shift to go at. And that can be from an expectation of, you know, we want Villa players to be better. We expect more of them. And it can also be from, right, let's get behind the team and let's create like an ultra intimidating atmosphere. Yes, we've had a fantastic home record. There's nothing to say against that. But I just don't feel as much as an intimidation factor that Villa Park provides as St James's Park provides. And that's just me being truthful. Like every time I see a game at Newcastle and from living up here, the atmosphere is ridiculous. And yeah, I know they've lost games at home, but I don't feel that from Villa. Like I feel like we win games at home many times because of the system that we play and how Unai Emery set us up, and we're difficult and we're hard to beat. I don't feel like there's so many times when it's the fans that have turned it around or created that real intimidating factor for other clubs, barring one or two of the games where we've got nothing to lose and we're kind of at an expectation level that we might as well just go after it because we're not the favourite.
I don't disagree with that. And this is, you know, I'm a season ticket holder at Villa Park, and, you know, I go to a lot of the games, and I would say I'm not calling out Villa fans. I think I'm as guilty of it. But I actually agree with that. I think there are times when it's like we don't feel, you know, the place goes quiet and we don't, you know, like if it's a big challenge, we need to like lose our minds and pick the players up. And, you know, one of the things I always remember about going to Villa Park when I was younger is we always used to scream man on. And that was one of my first memories of Villa Park is you're waiting for someone to get anywhere near our player so I could scream man on. We don't. I get it. And I hope that the new infrastructure and that the new stand is a start to increasing the capacity of Villa Park even further, because we need to be able to compete now. Like, there are so many teams in the league with a 60,000 plus seat stadium, you know, the likes of West Ham, who are again London based. And if we start falling down, we need to have a way to stay competitive with these clubs. Look at Everton, Spurs, Liverpool, Man United. You know, I know that Chelsea's Stamford Bridge is still quite small, but Man City, like, there are loads of teams now with impressive stadiums that are breaking the mold. And I feel like I love Villa Park for how authentic it is and how that feel of like proper old school football.
Yeah. It's got that old school feel. Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to keep up, right? You have to keep up. And even the twats down the road at, you know, the Blues, they're going to get a shiny new stadium in the center of town, and it's just like, I don't want to. Maybe it's FOMO, maybe it's like a pride thing. I don't want to be left out of that. So it's really good news, and hopefully they do. You know, it sets a precedent. It brings in the 10 million quid a season that it's going to bring in, plus all the European games, domestic games, and everything else. So it's really good.
I mean, Kev said that is, I only say it because I live up there. Look, it pains me to say it. I don't like saying it, but I'm just saying what I'm saying what I feel. I'm saying what I see, and that people don't have to agree with me. That's fine. But I just see the atmosphere at St James's Park is incredibly. We never win there. Why do Villa never win there? We never ever win there because the atmosphere is mad. Like, it's mad. Like, we crumble in that atmosphere.
To be fair, we very rarely win at Selhurst Park, and that's like a lot.
Well, that's another intimidating atmosphere. I'll say that as well.
We've been to Palace together, mate. They were rubbish.
They were rubbish then. Yeah.
That was Steven Gerrard, wasn't it? We went there under.
No. We were singing then. We were definitely. But you know, those night games at Selhurst Park, you know, then they're pretty intimidating.
I think the problem for me is because I sit in the hole. It's always there's always like a bit of noise going on, even from here. But if you're in the other sides of the stadium, I guess the more family friendly ones, they are pretty quiet. I think it's the north stand is the only other one that really makes noise, but obviously we're miles away from it, so we can't really hear them that well. But there are times when, you know, the 5,000 or less away fans are louder than us, which shouldn't really happen.
Yeah. Look, I appreciate there are times when Newcastle have been bad, particularly under Steve Bruce and, you know, the previous owner. But I just think in general, it's a pretty, you know, I think Villa need to up their game. That it's not. I'm not saying that with their better fans or anything. I just think, you know, when in terms of atmosphere created at certain times, I think we need to up our game.
Well, it is the call from the Villa Park podcast to increase the noise levels of Villa Park.
Increase the noise. Starts on Sunday. Let's do it. Let's make it. Look, if Palace make it intimidating on a night game at Selhurst Park, let's do the same. Let's return the favour against them on Sunday night at Villa Park. Anyone who's going, sing your heart out, shout, scream, boo them, boo the opposition, be horrible to them, be nasty to them, and turn Villa Park into a horrible place for any team to go to. That's what I want. I don't want them to enjoy themselves there. Yeah, hostile. Yeah.
Not after the game, not to the away fans. We'll keep it legal. But it should feel like walking. You say the cauldron.
Yeah.
I always remember that. What was the Italian team? It was Galatasaray, and they had that big thing that said "Welcome to Hell."
Yeah.
Class. That was really good.
Yeah, Crystal Palace, welcome to hell. There you go. Yeah. There you go. Right, I think we will call it a night there. Thank you so much, everyone, in the comments. Thank you, everyone, for watching as well. Nearly 350 of you in the chat. Amazing stuff at what time are we on now? 11 o'clock. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you please do hit that like button and hit the subscribe button on your way out if you haven't already. We are going to, myself and either Sam or Kev or George or Martin or any of us will be back with a match preview, a full match preview for Palace over the next couple of days. Also be back with instant reaction, Lions Raw match reaction, hopefully with some special guests, player ratings as well, talking tactics. Everything will be back after that game. So stay tuned to the channel. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Sam, for joining. Make sure you follow Sam at samwise_UTV on all socials. Follow us at Villa Park Pod as well. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.